very busy schedules to listen to what we have to talk about today, which we think is very important. So, very quickly, I am Jessie, Dr. Jessie Ferreira. And just a quick introduction, my background is in education, in leadership development, and in human transformation. And I am focused more now than ever on helping individuals and uh, teams grow their capacity so that they lead with empathy and they lead with clarity and authenticity. That's my main focus right now. And so,
Yeah, and so
Omar.
my name is Omar, and who am I has been a question that I've had all my life, and this topic is one that is really, really close to me because it has been the point of challenge when it comes to my identity. It also has been a challenge when it comes to struggling to see where I fit in the world. So who I am, first and foremost, is a person that is a lifelong learner. I like to learn things. I like to continue to improve and share. My mission and my personal vision in life is to live authentically and empower others to be the best version of themselves. That's my objective in life. So the reasons why we're doing this as Sales Quest, it's the idea of understanding that our lives is a quest that we feel like we're our way through, so that we could find what I call our point of expression, how we express ourselves in this time, in the here and now, authentically. And this is one of the ways that we do that.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. This platform has been something that I share with people oftentimes that I feel like saved me because I left the corporate world just a few months ago and had, while Omar was very much into what we're talking about tonight and sort of exploration and the philosophical aspect of living from coherence and authenticity and from your essence. I was just the we joke about it all the time when we're doing interviews, and I'll say, like, "I was the supporting wife. Yay,
There,
there.
there.
You got this. You can do it. I'm there for you," and so, of course, I was gonna be there for him and support him and be a part of this movement, right? I call it a movement now, but back then I was just like, it's a hobby. This is just what he's doing, and he's passionate about it, and I wanna be there for him. But as I evolved in my career, I recognized that this was something that I needed to be a part of. So when I left the corporate world recently, I threw myself into doing this, and now for me, it's become my passion. It's become my point of expression, like Omar said. And so I am also very dedicated in empowering people to live from that essence and to live from their authenticity. And I love to see the transformations that I'm seeing with people. So, very quickly, Omar, I would love for you to give a little background about A Soul's Quest,
Mhm.
really quick for the people that are on the call.
Sure, absolutely. So, Soul Squad started based on the premise of the heroic journey. And when I was about 19, my first um, interaction or confrontation with my inner world, with who I was at that time, led me to discover the heroic journey by Joseph Campbell, the Hero's Monument. And at that time, as I progressed, I was able to really figure out, um, not that life was a straight line, but that I could actually go through life with a perspective of finding parts of myself, rediscovering myself, but also being able to see, um, that my life always changes and philosophies always changes. So at that time, that was one of the things that came about. Fast forward to 2021, again, like Jesse mentioned, because things change, I struggle, and I had to live a career that I have for over 17 years, of career which I loved, a career in which I was a part of, and things were actually the things that I wanted to do. Unfortunately, I had to live that because things change and situations changes. So that was the foundation of revisiting that first stage in my life, coming back and redefining myself, because I lost my sense of belonging and myself of identity. So a Soul Square started, as like you mentioned, just as an opportunity just to vent and talk, but it was also with the premise of I am at the pit. I am what in the hero's journey is called the abyss, which is the worst. This is the part in which you could actually arise again, rising for the ashes, or you could crumble there. And what I learned from that part is what is the lessons that I'm learning. What, not asking why this happened to me, but asking what am I learning from this. And a soul's quest from that questioning began to arise. And now it has developed into a transformational approach to life and leadership. And we break it down into those two parts because number one, the foundation of everything there is the individual, the cell, right? The individual is the most important part. Nothing functions without individuals. And if individuals are not coherent, meaning they don't know all the different aspects of who they are, you are going to have conflict and friction. So the idea behind a Soul's Quest is number one, to work with individuals so they could find their coherence. That's why the quiz that I ask you to take is so important because it puts you in touch with a lot of different aspects of who you are. And we're going to get into that. But then the second part and the most important part is that everything in the universe contributes. Everything contributes. So we cannot just evolve and develop on isolation. There is a responsibility, and this is why we strive for people to go out there and be leaders, coherent leaders, because the world will not change by us complaining. The world will not change by just wishing that things happen. The world will only change by us finding our point of expression and be able to live from there. Meaning, I don't know what it looks like to you, but for me right now, it looks like number one, everyone that I come across, I try to live by that coherence and I try to be that example, right? Everything that we do, we try to actually do that as well. So the point number one of a Soul's Quest is find your point of expression, feeling coherent, and belonging is one of those things that we have to start understanding. And the second part is without pressure, without struggling, expressing ourselves like a flower expresses itself naturally. We are capable of doing that as well. We just have been conditioned, and we have faced a lot of aces, and we want to be able to overcome those things. So that's what a Soul's Quiz is in a nutshell.
I love that. So it's he mentions ACEs, but I'm not I don't know if everybody on this webinar knows what ACEs
Yeah.
are.
So
So
ACEs
just
are adverse childhood experiences, and a lot of us face those things either by our families, but also by society.
Mhm.
And understanding those situations is once you understand ACEs and once you understand the challenges that you have faced, you're in. And instead of, like I said, instead of asking why this happened to me, asking what am I learning from this? What is the compost that's in this situation so that I could create something better or something different, right? But it becomes, you have to be aware, you have to understand that these things happen. And one of the bigger ones, one of the biggest issues that we had as a consequence of ACEs is the sense of belonging and
right,
where do we fit in. So this is
right.
one of the reasons why we wanted to start with this one.
Right. Yeah. The sense of belonging is a big one. It was a big one for me. And it was the one that I wanted to focus on today because it is one of the drives that I'm repeating, but one of the drives that drove me throughout my career. Right. So before we get into the core drive of belonging, I want to talk to you about when we teach our methodology with ASQ, we talk about the 8 core drives. And this is kind of it varies amongst whoever uses the core drives, but we focus on energy regulation. That's how we manage our stress and how we rest and the resilience, exploration, curiosity. That's our fuel for innovation. Our play and our skill, being able to trust, practice, and adaptability are built with those things. Defensiveness and aggression, caregiving, bonding. I'm looking at my notes. Status and power. And then, of course, the need to belong. And then there's the sexual drive, right? The need to or the impulse to create and to innovate and generate, right? So we're going to focus on the need to belong.
Mhm.
And the reason that we're going to do that is, again, because I want to share my story with you very quickly. Um, just to bring it into a practical sense, I always say that in this relationship with the Soul's Quest, I'm the practical one and Omar is the philosophical one because he can be what people like to say woo woo, but it makes
I'm
sense,
not
right?
woo woo.
But sorry. But I like to bring the things that he talks about and sort of bring it into a very practical, something that people can relate to. So,
You're
I,
definitely more relatable than I am. Yes, that is definitely true.
right.
Yes, I will tell
So,
you that.
in my career in higher education, I one of the things that I wanted to do when I was pursuing my education is I wanted to be a faculty member. I was zoned in on being a faculty member. And Manny, who is on this call, can attest to that. I was there, I was getting my education, I was doing my thing, and I was super motivated. That's all I wanted to do. I would see other faculty members and professors walking around. I would do some trainings with them. I, interacted with them deeply as the assistant. And I just had a real strong drive to be in the classroom. That's just what I wanted to do. And a lot of times when people would ask me, why is it that you want to be like your drive is super serious about being a faculty member? I would be like, because I want to give back. I want to be in the classroom. I want to give back to the students. I'm not going to be traditional. I'm going to set us up in a circle and I'm going to be a part of the group because I don't feel just because I have a PhD that I'm bigger than anybody else or because I have a title that I'm better than anybody else. I want to give back. I want to interact. And that was my motto. Anytime somebody asked me that question, that's what I said. I even said it to my husband. Like, this is what I was saying to everybody. And I was making myself believe it. But what was really happening under the surface was that I was striving to belong to this group of faculty members. They were all well paid. They were all having this really flexible schedule. They had like
Recognition.
they had recognition. They were part of the union. They had like they were revered by students. Students would come in and ask for a particular professor and oh my God, he's so great. And this person's so great. And I wanted to be a part of that so bad, but I could never share that with anybody. I couldn't tell there's no way that somebody would say, "Why do you wanna be a faculty member?" And I say, "Oh, because I have the need to belong. I wanna be a part of this. I wanna get paid a lot of money. I wanna be having this flexible schedule. I wanna come and go as I please. I want students to revere me." Like, I'm not gonna say that, right? That's not what we do. So the drive, what was the impulse, what was pushing me towards being a faculty member on the outside was very different from what was going on inside. And this drive, this motivation was bringing me to a place where I kept crashing and crashing and crashing because doors were closing. That's a whole nother story. But the point is that that need to belong put me in a zone that was so deep that I couldn't relate to anybody else, not even to my own husband, because if he went against what I wanted, then he was out. Like we had that whole argument. I was like, "You're not supporting me. If you're not supporting me, who's supporting me if you're not supporting me? This is awful." So the need to belong is a driving factor. It's a driving core need for people that is really intense. Why do people join gangs? People join gangs because they get that sense of belonging from a gang, right? They go in there, they get that collective, yo, bro, this, that, whatever. And they do all these different things. I don't know. I don't know what they do, but they give them that need that belong. They fill that void for them. And so they get into this group. And of course, we know how the story ends with these things, right? But that need to belong is a very serious drive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, and absolutely. And I mean, for me, and one of the things that I throughout my life, number one, I'm a bastard, like the literal definition of a bastard, which is, my father was a bigamist. He was married, had another family in another place, and then my mom was unaware of that. And then when she found out, she left him, right? And so that was always that I was always the other kid. That was one thing that was part of my life. In addition to that, the sense of abandonment. My mom left me at a young age to search for a better life for me. But when you're young, you don't understand these situations, right? You're there, you accept it, and you think this is wow, why this is happening to me. And thrown in there, sexual abuse and watching people having sex in front of me when I was a young kid. So like all this stuff kind of like contribute to that isolation internally. Then in addition to that, moving to a brand new country, a brand new language, and having to adjust for that. And then again, getting adjusted and then suddenly saying, we're moving to another state and you got to start all over again. So always feeling like that I'm the outside, and I always joke around that I make no sense because I have a Muslim first name, Portuguese last name, and I'm neither of those things. And then I look like this because you can't tell exactly where I am. Plus, I am a little bit atypical. I think a little differently. I act a little differently, and sometimes that's I don't fit into a box. So it was always kind of like being pushed out and being looked at as either less than or other. And that made an impact on me. It made an impact on my career. It made an impact on the person that I am. And he made me introverted in a way, which is one of the things that as you begin to explore life, you start learning things. But while I was going through all that, it was horrific. It's horrific to be the other person.
I was gonna say the impact wasn't a
Yeah,
positive
no,
impact, it
no. It
was
was it
negative.
was, anxiety, depression, always trying to do too much, right? Trying really, really hard to at least just get the recognition that you're good enough, that you belong here, right? And that's in the micro point of view, but in the macro point of view, right? Our society is very tribal by nature. It's very tribal. We are always looking to belong to something at the expense of other people, right? So this us against them, is this or that. And that sense of belonging is something that is universal in us. That's, because at one point, in order for us to survive, in ancient times, we had to come together and work in different settings, right? But what's happened in my lifetime at least, is that we are failing to evolve to the next level. And the next level is really recognizing that we are all part of the same thing, right? So if one of my favorite quotes is Carl Sagan, and I say this constantly, right? And I'm probably going to have to pay him royalties moving forward. Is we are a way for the universe to know itself, right? And it has already been scientifically proven that we are all literally one. We're all part of the same thing. And this is not woo woo. This is not anything that is like poetic or anything of that nature. It is facts, right? Even with animals, right? The only difference between animals and us is like a couple of chromosomes, right? A couple of just DNA points. That's the only difference. So we understand this logically, but we fail to recognize it within us. Now, when it comes to the problem of the belonging and as a desire gateway, is when we are not aware that, like Jesse was or like I was, of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. Then we're beginning to live unauthentically. Then we are out of alignment and out of coherence with our own authenticity, with our own purpose, with our own drives, right? And the idea, first and foremost, is to become aware, right? And that's where the challenge lies, right? That's where the challenge lies, right? What
Right.
do you think about
Well,
that?
no, I that's why we asked everybody to do the coherence scores
Mhm,
because and I don't know if you guys were able, I don't know if everybody on the call was able to take it, but
mhm,
this coherence score gives you the sort of like it's a barometer for you to see where you are in terms of your coherence and what kind of awareness you have as to where you're at right now. Because, like Omar said, one of the biggest things is that we don't know that we have this. Like, I didn't know that I had this need to belong until I left the corporate world and all of a sudden everything became fragile and I was vulnerable and I was like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do with my life? Like what's happening?" And here was a Soul's Quest, this platform for me to join in, and it was something that Omar wanted me to do. But this wasn't where I felt I belonged. This isn't
mhm,
where I felt I was going to be needed. This isn't where I felt that praise and that revere-ness that I was looking for and all the things that I was thought that I needed.
mhm,
So it really was a matter of going through the process of the quest is what we call
mhm,
it, to really understand that I was feeling these things and I was looking for these things, but I didn't really need these things because they came from me.
Yeah.
Like I was giving these things to myself. And if we take a moment and we just stand back for a moment and have perspective,
Mhm.
you note that all the things that we think we need from the external world, we have
Within.
within us already.
Yeah.
And our need to belong is that need to belong to ourselves. And
Mhm.
so that's really for me, that's what it,
Yeah, yeah.
boils down to.
And then so then you'll ask the question, okay, so how does this relate to me? What is the antidote to
Mm,
this, right? One of the quotes that I love, and I don't remember it precisely, but it's Maya Angelou, that I belong to myself
yeah.
wherever I want, wherever I go, I belong, right? And that's really hard for us. It's really, really hard for us to live authentically because there are so many pressures. But again, the idea is awareness. And what I want to show you right now is something that we call the PEP framework, right? Because this is what we have to do in order to find our motivations within the spectrum of the belongings, right? We talked about the eight core drives, and the eight core drives, they live within a spectrum, right? So I'll give you an example. Um, a sense power, right? Which derives from that idea of lust of our animal need to reproduce and that power to express ourselves, right? Power, when you hear the word, typically it denotes a negative connotation of power over somebody else or taking from somebody else. But that's one end of the spectrum on the polarity scale. On the other polarity scale, it's gaining power for the benefit of the whole, right? And what we need to understand is all these drives live within that polarity. They all do, right? Seeking of status for self-aggrandizement is one thing, but also seeking of status for the betterment of everything else is also positive. So when we look at this desire drives and all these different things, we have to look at it within the spectrum. So what awareness does is help us realize where we are within that spectrum, right? So, in order to do that, we have to use the PAPE framework to understand exactly how to apply this and to understand exactly where we are. So, here is the PEP framework, and I want to make sure that I want to share this with you so that you are able to see it, and I will explain it as we go. Perfect. So, the PEP framework stands for perspective, experience, and philosophy. So, the PEP framework isn't just a model. It provides seekers with a repeatable sequence of awakening, integrating, and deepening growth. It's not a ladder to climb once, but a spiral to revisit at each threshold of life and leadership. One of the things that we teach and we talk about here at the Soul Quest is our emotions being our soul's GPS, right? Anxiety, depression, all these things that make us go within. What he really is telling to us is that we have to use the PAPE framework to see exactly where we are and then determine a path or an approach to where we're going to be, right? So here's what I want you to see, right? So typically what happens is we are born, and this is kind of like the green area you see. We are born, and what happens for us at the beginning stage of our lives is that we are given, our philosophy for life. It could be, again, like I mentioned, your culture, the culture that you were put in. It could be the aces, the challenges, the adverse experiences that you had. All these things are given to you, right? Because if I ask you right now, right, and if you want to use your reactions there, you could put a thumbs up if this applied to you. Did you choose your family? I don't see any thumbs up. Did you choose how you look? Did you
I agree.
choose the culture that you were born into? No. Did you choose the adverse experiences that you faced? Right. So if you didn't choose that, you could see how easily it is to build our identity and build who we are on the falsehood of something that was given to us. Right. And again, when we apply polarity to it, is it bad that we were born into a culture and then those things? No, they're not. All those things are not inherently bad into themselves. However, as an individual, it is our responsibility to learn from those things and then be able to evolve. And what happens a lot of the time with us is what you see in the no coherence graph, right? We stay here, we go through the cycle, but we keep living with the same philosophy, the same approach. We're looking at experiences and we're not really gaining anything from our experiences. So we stay straight, right? But this is not evolution, this is survival, right? And this is what happens. We survive, and most of us, even when we feel that deep disconnection, we still maintain this has to work because this is the way that it is. And you see it throughout history when it comes to religions, when it comes to ideologies, from the more macro point of view, we hold on to this, right? But here's the growth and evolution, which is more coherent, right? It's this idea of applying, again, our philosophies, looking at a different perspective and experience. So this is how it goes. First, we are given a philosophy. Something happens within us in which there is friction, anxiety, depression, the questioning us like, what am I here for? Where do I belong? Who am I? All those questions. It is a point that is teaching you that this philosophy no longer, the philosophy that you have for life no longer fits, right?
When you feel the aching, when it doesn't feel good anymore, when it's starting to really nag at you.
Mhm.
That's, like that.
Exactly.
Ugh.
That
Yeah.
crisis,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
crisis when the doors begin to close on you.
Yes.
When doors,
Yes.
because again, the universe is so amazing because sometimes you grow willingly, but most of the times we all know that we grow unwillingly.
Unwillingly.
It's
Yes.
like things have to happen before we wake up,
Right.
right?
That's what I was saying earlier. You crash
You
and you
crash.
crash and you keep going.
And
Yeah.
the idea is to recognize those moments in life also as gateways.
Mhm.
We use the word gateway because these opportunities to feel those frictions, to feel that opportunity is this gateway to actually begin to expand our perspective,
Mhm.
right? So here's perspective. Perspective means that a lot of the times when we see life within maybe 2 feet in front of us, right? Um, it's like Dave Chappelle has this joke. It's like, when you see a problem, if you see an elephant and you get too close to it, you can't see anything past his wrinkled skin. But if you step back enough, now you can see the entire elephant, right? So we have to look at life from a more cosmic point of view, from a more broader point of view. We have to widen our gaze, right? And some of that gaze is, in our opinion, means looking at life for where we are in the universe, right? Seeing the cycles of life, seeing the growth and the decay of things, seeing that life, right, in particularly from what is called the overview effect, which is what astronauts experience, is seeing the totality and beauty of life, but also the temporal how temporal life is. We're here for a certain moment in time, and it's our job primarily to suffer and go through these things, or is our responsibility in life to actually begin to grow and evolve? I would say the latter. I would say that we're here to grow, to experience, to evolve, to impart the things that were innate inside of us, right? So when you apply that type of perspective, stepping back and seeing, wait a minute, my life doesn't have to be like that, because when I look around, other people are living good lives. They're doing some of the things that they would like to do. How can I do that? And that's a spark, right? And then you look at your experiences and then you start saying, this is when it gets a little challenging, because you really have to look at yourself and ask, what am I learning from my experiences,
Good
right?
and bad.
Good and bad,
Good
right?
and bad.
Because I give you an example. I told you about when I was younger, and I used to go to sleep crying because I didn't have my mom, I didn't have my dad, and then I used to pray to God, and God never answers. So I was like, forget about it, right? So when that happened, I went to sleep alone, and I was quiet, and I withdrew, so I was very isolated. However, right, the flip coin of that isolation was my ability to be introverted, my ability to be able to sit down and study things, my ability to be able to take time to evaluate things, right? So from all that chaos, from all that stuff, I was able to actually create an environment almost like composting, so that I could develop aspects of myself, and here I am as a consequence of that, right? because that was a gateway for me to understand. Because how can I talk to you now about those experiences and how I benefited from it if I didn't take the time to say, what did I learn from that? Right? Because for me, and the reasons why I'm able to be here is because questioning God led me to understand a lot of different religions, right? Led me to go to places that I shouldn't have been. I've been at a synagogue, I've been in different in a mosque, and I've been in all these different types of settings because questioning that and seeing all those different perspectives, right, gave me that philosophy in which everyone is part of the whole. It gave me that perspective that you choose a group and there's going to be your outliers, right? Which is about 20% that are extremist, while 80% is still in the middle. They're okay. It gave me that perspective that what I'm seeing a person reaction, it's not really them, is their aces.
Mhm.
It's is the part of that. So
It
that
allows you to be in this place, interestingly enough,
Mhm.
where you can, rather than point fingers at people and sort of be like, "What the hell is wrong with this person?" It's asking, "What
What
happened
happened?
to this
Mhm,
person?" You know
mhm.
what I mean? It sort of shifts your perspective.
Precisely, yeah.
Yeah. So
And then
sorry, I didn't mean to
and
interrupt.
also what he does, I've been fortunate enough to be in situations and positions of leadership. And what it has allowed me to do is also be more empathic when it comes to the people that I work with,
Mhm.
being more patient and being able to understand that although I may be I may be able to understand something a lot faster than some people, it doesn't make me better. It doesn't make me superior. It doesn't make me any of that.
Mhm.
What it does is it allows me to go down to where they are, meet them where they are, and then be able to walk alongside them to be where they need to be. And this is actually, I didn't know prior to understanding, this is actually a leadership technique that is called situational leadership,
Exactly.
right? So by going through all my aces, but all my negative experiences, I created a philosophy for life. And sometimes that philosophy gets batted against the wall, and that's when you have to start rediscovering, which is what happened to me on my in 2021 when I had to leave my career. I had to be able to find a redefinition because obviously I didn't belong in there, because I wasn't there. I wasn't wanted, right? And and when that happens, when you feel no, I don't belong anywhere, it took me for a loop. But thankfully, I was able to understand, what did I learn from this? First, I learned that I do not want to be like those people, first and foremost. Number two, I recognize, most importantly than anything, is that I cannot see the world as I wanted to see it. I have to see the world for what it is, right? And what I learned from that realization is that everything is polar. Everything is has polar opposites. Everything works within the spectrum. It's not a good or bad. It's just understanding that people are where they are, but I don't have to hold on to their ideas of me, or their ideas, or their perspectives on reality. I don't have to do that. And it's challenging to stand that firm.
But when you gain that
Mhm,
perspective and when you understand that these experiences are something that you can take and you can learn
mhm,
and apply to create a philosophy, and going through the growth and evolution, applying it and growing and
mhm,
growing and growing
mhm.
and evolving,
Yep.
you understand that you don't need to do anything outside of be who you are
Yes.
to belong to yourself.
Correct.
So the idea of belonging and
Mhm,
needing to belong to a group dissipates when you enhance your emotional intelligence, when you enhance your awareness with that understanding that there are more perspectives than the ones that I've been
mhm,
given. The sense of self that was created for me when I was born into this family that I didn't choose and all this different stuff is not necessarily the only perspective.
mhm.
And that's the idea that we're trying to put out there,
Yeah.
is to say that there are multiple perspectives. And it sounds sort of elementary, but believe it or not, I'm guilty. I had one perspective,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of us do. as a
And
consequence of
it's easier said than done, right?
of
But the
course.
idea is this, right? If you look again, we like to look at the universe of the cosmos. There is nothing static in the universe, right? And if you look at the coherence chart over here, there is nothing static in the universe. Ideas cannot be static. And if you realize, if you look at the state of the world right now, we're fighting for ideas. And
Mhm.
ideas are not reality. There are concepts, there are philosophies or things, and those things need to constantly evolve. And it is up to us. This is why we always focus on life and leadership. Because if you want to withdraw out of the world and not have emotions, not have desires, and that's a very accidental way of thinking, we are, and we live in the West and we have a certain makeup in the West, and we cannot deny the impulse of our desires. And in order to grow as individuals, in order to be the people that what we want to be, we have to tap into those desires to be able to go there, because then you are able to do this. You are able to grow, right? And as you grow and you learn from your experiences, if you realize, if you look at the bottom of this corner, this is where you start, right? And when you begin to assimilate and learn philosophies, your lowest low or your next level, it's not the same low that you started with, right? But we always think that this is where we always start and this is where we go back to, but we don't, because we're realizing, oh, wow, I was here before. Where am I heading? What is my approach for this life? And then you go into the next level, and you can see the low of the next level is not, it's a height. It's not another low. And when we begin to see that we are never, if we are using the PEP framework and we are applying these things, we are never ever at the same place. And this should give us a sense of comfort to know, right, that we are growing, that we are evolving, not that we are arriving, because I don't believe that you arrive at a place. I think the moment you stop growing and the moment you stop wanting things, that's the moment that you begin to die, because again, you go in static. So, but this doesn't have to be treacherous. This doesn't have to be strenuous. This could be joyful if you are aware of it and you start recognizing, wow, look at what I've done and where I've come from. So I wanted to bring this up because this is part of the prescription or the solution, of the problems when it comes to dealing with belonging, right? And in the work that we do, it's not just about understanding things logically, right? We have a specific definition for what the soul is. We are a soul's quest, right? And the soul has four components. The first one is what Jesse mentioned, which is the desire gateway, right? You have to understand our desires. And scientifically speaking, this is our mammalian brain, right? We think that we have completely disregarded that, but I challenge you to look at the world and tell me if we don't act like animals, right? Number one. So we have to understand that those drives, again, they're polar, and we have to recognize that they're there, and we have to make sure that we understand them. Number one. The second part is our emotions, and our emotions are gateways, right? Our emotions are all gateways. They are gateways to let us know that we are on track or we're not on track. We're feeling we're moving in the direction that we internally want to go or not, right? So when you think that anxiety and depression and other, and then someone that has taken medication most of their lives for it, I will tell you that those were gateways for me to be able to ask more questions and be curious about why is this, why is this, why is this, why does this happen, and then what am I learning from this, what am I learning from this, what am I learning, and then I'm here to talking to you because as a consequence of exploring those things, right? So our emotions, yes, then we have our intellect, and their intellect is what we think, right? We our so-called, and I will call it this, I will call it the ego. And there's two types of egos. Is the egos that is an it, and there's an ego that is a thou, right? And our intellect is that ego that is an it. It's an ego that bases life on probability, right? Analytical, that dehumanizes all other aspects of us, our emotions and our drives, that you have to think things through. But I challenge you again, look at our world and look how, if you look at we just went to Europe a couple of months ago, And there's a beauty in that because there's a communal aspect of it. But if you look at the way here in the States, our societies are building grids, right? There is no center in which people commune. There is no unity. There is nothing like that because our intellect is looking for practicality and functionality rather than incorporating all these different aspects of us. I've worked at the schools, and I will tell you, the schools is not a place to develop creativity.
Yeah.
That's not what creativity is. But you could tell, as Jesse mentioned earlier, those are ones of our natural drive. So you tell me, where are kids, and us expressing our creativity? Where are we giving ourselves our spaces to be able to do that free, without judgment? Right. So all those things that we have to understand. And finally, when you begin to understand all these things, your desires, your emotions, your intellect, and you're able to bring them into oneness, you become something else. You are working and living from a different place, right? And that's the goal of the quest, to live and create from an integrated place, a coherent place in which all these things function. And you are the one that is guiding it both logically, emotionally, and instinctively, right? That, my friends, that is what people call awakening. Awakening is not this thing of seeing this stuff out there, or, oh my God, I'm going to see all this stuff and I'm going to levitate. That's not it. Awakening is understanding all these different aspects of it, of yourself, be able to integrate them and use them, right? With the desire to share and impart. That's what it is. So we mention all that because this is the work that we do.
Yes.
And the work that we do is to be able to help individuals, and we guide individuals, because I can't tell you your point of expression. I wish I could, but I can't. And I trust me, when somebody tells you that they can, run away, right? Your point of expression is within you, right? Our goal is to guide you through the challenges that you'll come across once you walk to find what your point of expression is. That is our job. That is it. We're psychopumps. Psychopumps are just guides that have walked that line, right? Both in our individual lives, but also when it comes to leadership and when it comes to organizations.
Yeah.
And that is the work that we do.
Yeah. So that was a good overview. Thank you for that. He always does this really great. So,
And I will tell you why. I mean, and sorry to interrupt, right? And it's because I've lived it, right? It flows from my tongue, and I will tell you right now, I don't know, none of this stuff is, we didn't script any of this stuff,
no, we did not.
right?
Holy.
Because again,
I wish we did.
and this is what I want people to live from this point of view.
Yeah.
To find what I'm beginning to discover within me, right? And live from there. To find a place in which you're rejecting everybody else's good opinions of you.
Yeah.
And live and find a place in which you could express yourself, and that you could find that expression and contribute. And my goal is to be able to be that and inherit that. And this is what Jesse's goal is. And we are at different stages of our path, right? Not a better place than the other. I was just more inquisitive than she was, and now she's getting more inquisitive, and that's the only difference. It's not a better, because you know how we get shallow and we say, "Oh, he thinks." It's different stages. We are all in different progressions because our lives are so unique, and we walk our own individual paths. But we could learn and love one another and share with one another in all aspects if we are doing it with that broader perspective.
It's just, I wanted to say to Omar's point that, we are on different paths. We are in a relationship. We're partners. We're business partners. We deal with each other quite a bit, and we are in different places in our quest, right? For me, like I said, when we started, I was very much there. I'm going to support you. I got your back. I'm a good wife. I'm going to do whatever you need. I'm a good person. Because I thought he was really going through it. Meanwhile, here I was just sweeping everything under the rug unknowingly, not knowing that I was going through this detachment of understanding who I really was and living from my authentic place. And so as I came to this, like I said, I was crashing, crashing, crashing. I got to this point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live this life anymore because it was it was soul crushing. I wasn't living who I was and using my voice. So I take pride in the work that I do, that I can help people, and I have a focus on women use their voice, find their voice, and put it out there and not be afraid and be vulnerable and be open and to just explore all
Mhm.
the beauty that we have inside of us. We're always looking for things on the outside, but everything that we need is right in here.
Mhm.
And so that is, I mean, because I
Yep.
want to respect our time and it's already 7:45.
So what we want to do right now is we want to open it up for some Q and A's,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I
Q&A.
think that I'm gonna just open everybody's mics, and we'll love to hear if you, some questions that you may have, some things that you may want to have some clarifications on. So I open everybody's mics, but if you could, yeah, just be cordial with one another and just kind of listen. But any questions that you may have,
I
Savvy.
have a question.
Mhm.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify with the soul's four components, it's
Mhm.
desires, emotions,
Mhm.
intellect, and then the last one is awakening.
Well, the last one is your higher self,
Your higher
right?
intellect.
Yeah, which is the higher consciousness, the collective consciousness idea, right? That is the when you look at, so let me explain it to you like this, right? Carl Jung and Maslow have a philosophy of one, Carl Jung, the process of individuation, right? In which by going to the process of individuation, you arrive at yourself, the self, which is the component that has the totality of all aspects of who you are. Your anima, your animus, your shadow, your ego, yourself, they all become one within the self, right? So, which is this symbol right here. You can't see it. Maslow talks about self actualizing, right? When you understand all these different components of who you are, you begin to actually live from self actualization, right? So you actually begin to live a life of coherence and you contribute from that higher point of view, right? Some people call it the Christ consciousness, you call it everything. Look, the truth is one. People call it by many different names, right? This concept of living from that point of view is that idea that you are the self, you are a small representation of what the universe is, right? And understanding that by understanding all these components and then seeing it outside of you, seeing the polarity, seeing the different desires out there, right? Also, you come to the point almost like the sun, right? The sun just shares and gives, and he gives himself completely without depleting itself, right? And that's what the higher place is like. It's like you live from that point of view in which you are being truly authentic you. Does
Makes
that make
sense?
sense?
Okay, it does. Something that you mentioned earlier, and we've talked about this before, with like the sun and the moon. I tend to like live from the darkness because I really enjoy like the cycles of like life and death the most.
Mhm, mhm,
I like killing like different versions of myself essentially that don't serve me.
mhm,
So when you said the thing about composting
mhm,
like different aspects of myself, I was like,
mhm.
oh, like I don't know, something like lit up in my brain. So I just like that part.
Yeah, yeah. See, like I said, right? People think that life moves like this in a straight line, right? We are, if we changed our perspective, right? Like a flower, so to speak. Like a flower doesn't strain.
Mm.
Oh, how about a butterfly? Hi, Sally, this butterfly.
Yeah.
Even like a butterfly, right? Because a butterfly goes through its transitions, right? It goes through its changes, its transformation, but it unfolds just like a flower unfolds, just
Mhm.
like everything else unfolds, right? The challenge for us humans is that we are the only species on Earth, right, that is consciously aware, mentally aware of the things that happen to us, and we hold on to that. An animal, something happens, they learn from it. When they come across again, they avoid it and go in a different directions. We internalize it and make it ours
Mhm.
and make it our identity.
We own it.
We own it and we become us. And that's the aspect in which we have to start bringing that broader perspective and realize that experiences are moments that you could learn from and put down, right? And also, to your point, sometimes when we try, Carl Jung has this line: be careful um casting the devil within you, because that might be the best thing for you, right? If you begin to eradicate and let go of all the aspects of you, right, then you don't become a whole person. Because again, desires and those aspects of us are not bad, right? I know you and I spoke, if you don't mind, we spoke about Kali, right? Kali is the Hindu
Oh yeah.
goddess of destruction, right? But Kali is one aspect of another, it's a two-faced coin, because life
Yeah.
without destruction, we can't make sense of it, right? We can't make sense of life without paradoxes. It doesn't make sense to us. We have to have a paradox, and they both coexist within us. So when we eradicate one, and try to make things like, when we try to make life sterile, like, oh, nothing's gonna happen, right? It's like in the Jurassic Park, life always finds a way.
Oh yeah.
It kind of happens like that, because if you eradicate aspects of you without integrating them, it'll come out somehow. It always does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
integrating it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Integrating it. Yeah.
anybody else have any questions?
I have a question,
Uh-huh.
if I could. Um, it's a little bit out there though, because if we were in a perfect society, because I assume that people don't, you try to fit in with the narrative that you were given once you were born and the family that you were born in, because of how
Mm-hmm.
society is nowadays. So, in a perfect society, how would you instill, like, how to find yourself from a young age, if
Mm-hmm.
we put society aside?
So let me ask you a question first. How would you describe a perfect society?
That's a great question. I don't know yet. I'll have to
Mm-hmm.
get back to you on that, because
Yep.
quite honestly, I don't know what would make a society perfect, because there's always someone that's gonna complain about something.
Exactly. Right. So here's one of the things about us humans, right? We think, right? Again, this is the perspective and experience, right? A society, right? It's nothing more that us human figuring out a way to organize themselves in the infinitude of the universe, right? We don't know what the heck is happening, right? We don't know what's out there. We barely know how it all started. I mean, we don't know how it all started. So societies and communities are our best attempts, right, at organizing ourselves. Number one, if you look at it from that perspective, right, meaning that it's nothing more than an idea. It's not a fact. It's nothing more than an idea. So as humans, we have to understand that any system is a good system if we apply it correctly, if we understand it, right? But then the question to you will be, what is the goal of a society? Is the goal of a society to maintain itself, which is what we're seeing right now? Because what happens in ideas is the end goal is to maintain the idea. But the question really is, right? What is life? Right? What is life? Is life supposed to be us maintaining the system, the idea, which is, and we, like I mentioned, ideas, when they become static, they die, right? So it's the goal of life maintaining the idea, or is the goal of life exploring and evolving and finding perspectives about this existence that we hardly understand, right? So when you look at it from that point of view, right, there is no such thing as permanence in when it comes to a system. There isn't one, right? The system has to evolve because it has to allow the individuals to find different aspects of being, right? That's why the Declaration of Independence is so clear about in the sorry, all peoples, I say peoples, are born with inalienable rights of life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness, right? It doesn't say there to maintain capitalism. It doesn't stay there to maintain any of that. That's not what he says at all. But that's what we have become, because the idea, right, becomes the ultimate philosophy, right? And it becomes the ultimate perspective. So that's why we have to evolve. That's why we have to be able to figure out ways to open up people's minds. And that's why leadership is so important, right? Because most people, and I'm just listening to you, you sound very empathic, right? Most empath, what they do is that they withdraw, right? Because their desire for peace, it's more stronger, right? It's more, it's more lopsided than the desire for power, because they feel that the desire for power is negative, right? So now that you understand that power is about bringing forth new perspectives, creating spaces in which people are allowed to experience perspective. Because if you're experiencing perspective, why does it have to take away from me?
Right.
Right. And this is what you're seeing, like, and you play it internally, right, as an individual. But just look at society. Society is nothing more than people fighting for an idea, so they have a sense of belonging in a universe that makes no sense.
Yeah. Like
That is
we could
exactly-
literally have an asteroid hit us right now and be gone. That's really, really like dark,
Yeah.
but it's true, right? We're like this, if you get a chance to, if you haven't watched it, A Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan, you can YouTube it. It's a like 7-minute, 12-minute video, but it is so deep. And it makes you really, just that video. I did it in a training the other day.
Mhm.
I showed it at a training. It shifts your perspective immediately just watching that
Yeah.
video.
And what you see now, which is really, again, our intellect, right? And this is the issue, our intellect without understanding everything else, because people are willing to die for an idea, an abstract idea. They are willing to die for it, not for a fact.
Mm-mm.
Right, that we are all one. We don't die for that. We die for my idea is better than yours, and I will kill you because of it. Right.
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about how intellectual we are, if that is the way, because logic, right? If we call ourselves logic implies to be open-minded, right? Because you have to test things and explore it. So we're not logical. We're just sophisticated animals, and we pretend that we're logical. Right. And I mean that in a broader, but as individuals, to bring it down to us, we have to become more aware individually of all these different things, because the change only happens with the self. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it definitely does. And something that you mentioned about society, or what society has come to be nowadays, that it's wanting to maintain an idea. And I feel like society, or the ideal society, would be the society where people embrace the unknown, because what you don't know, it's what is going to make you uncomfortable with, which is clearly what's happening in this country, honestly. Like, people are very uncomfortable with different ideas or things that I feel like people should just look at history and patterns and recognize them, because things that are happening, for example, here, it's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
No.
At all.
Yeah.
But people are not seeing it, and they're just, I don't know. I feel like in the US specifically, I'm not from here. And I feel like it should start from the educational system, and just harvesting curiosity. I feel like here in this country, they teach you how to not be curious from a very young age, which we can clearly see the results nowadays. So
yeah. And all those things, right, go back to the topic, the sense of belonging. Because if we have this, right, this is who we are, so we feel safe. We have guardrails in this vastness of life. We could hold on to something, right? And so you have to build empathy for people, because that's the reality. The reality is that most people deep down inside are afraid of life. Because what is it, right? So in order for us to make sense of it, and this is why I always encourage people, let's have dialogue, but also be empathic, because I understand the need to hold on to those guardrails, right? But the reason why I understand that is because by going through my own process, and not being able to belong and not having guardrails to hold on to, I had to come to the realization that this is life. And people become afraid of letting go because then who am I if I'm not this?
Right.
It's
that's-
fearful. It's
that's-
very fearful.
That's the thing that we were saying when we first started is, when you go off into that, what we call the call to adventure, you're going without the guardrails because that's it. You're on your own at that point.
Mhm.
And it's whether you choose to answer the call or you don't, or the universe forces you to answer the call. You know what I mean? In my case, I was forced to answer the call. And I was scared, I was fragile, I was vulnerable, and here I am today. But
Mhm.
now I'm able to empower other people to
To do that.
go
Yeah.
ahead and loosen the grip of these guardrails. Like, that's
Yep.
a great analogy.
Yep.
Let go of that, because everything that you need, and I said this earlier, we have in here.
Yeah. And what you see on the outside, right? It's always a projection of what we see on our inside.
Mm.
Right. So it's the acknowledgement. And this is one of the things that we talk about it. And we're going to get into that because we are a little bit out of over time.
Yeah, we are over
right?
time.
But the idea is that us, when we recognize something outside of us, right? This is principle in Hermetic principles, as above, so below, and as below, so above, right? And in science is the whole concept of fractals, right? The fractals repeat themselves in the macro, but also in the micro. And we have to understand that when we see things like that, those are projections of ours, right? Because we understand, if we see society splinting and holding on to tribalism, we also understand that inside of us is because we have the need to belong. So you are able to see those individuals with more empathy and compassion, rather than villainizing them because, oh, they're just trying to belong, just like I want to belong to something. But it's in the macro, and it's much more challenging to see it like that. But the reality is, like, when you know yourself and you understand these things inside of you, and then you see them outside, you see, the same thing that I was trying to do, right? That's why one of the oldest maxims is know thyself, right? And when you know yourself, and that's why we focus on the individual quest, because that quest is the reflection of the whole, and it starts with you.
Yeah. So we want to, again, I hate that I want to respect everybody's time. So we're just going to very briefly just tell you a couple of the things that.
Any other questions? I'm
Oh,
sorry, because
sorry.
I'm sorry. Any other questions, Manny or Denisha? Anybody else? No,
No.
we're good. Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right.
Sorry about that. So, amongst the many services that we provide, one of the things that I encourage you to do is to visit our website. So if you go to asqempowerment.com, you can find several resources there. You can take the Soul GPS assessment. You can take the coherence assessment, just to kind of gauge where you're at with just where you are right now, right? And so right now we're running because we have to have a little,
Yeah, this is called the sales
This is
pitch
the
part.
sales
This is the
pitch?
sales pitch part.
So, but I
I know
want
we're
to
test
share.
driving a lot of the stuff.
I
but we're
want
not
to
gonna
share
stop.
also, because I think it's important for us to share, but also that we, that you all can share with other people that may be on this sort of, navigating this quest, if you will, or going on this journey. So one of the things that we offer is we have a cohort, a group guiding. We don't call it coaching, we call it guiding, because we guide you through the process. A group guiding cohort, and that starts on October 29th. It's from 7 to 8:30, and the regular price is $14.95, but right now we're giving a $500 off discount if you sign up by October 24th at 11 p.m. So it's actually $995, and that's for 8 weeks. So that's $125 a week. And we're only taking 8, we have 8 seats available. That's it. So that's the deal if you sign up by October 24th.
Mhm.
We also have individual guiding that we offer. And that, of course, is done. All of this, we would prefer that everybody set up a discovery call. We have a discovery call, and we sort of get to know each other, find out what your goals are, what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then we just kind of go from there. So,
and this is what you'll get out of this conversation. Number one, for the 8 weeks, we're going to focus on the most important thing. Number one, you are the seeker, you are the soul, is the ultimate definition and identity clarification of what you truly are. And then we're going to talk about 7 competencies that are innate within us to able to work on those and understand what those are, so that we're actually applying it to this process of PEP, perspective, experience, and philosophy. So we will focus, number 1, on the power of focus, understanding our memory and the creativity, understanding order and structure, understanding intuition, understanding how to properly make decisions and discriminate properly, and also to be able to harness all those desires that we talked about in the process of practice and be able to do that. That I'm going to be forewarning you that this is not a quick fix. This is not, you're going to get done in 2 weeks, in 2 or 3 steps, and it's going to be done. We do require that you put effort into it, and it does require gentle practice. It requires a gentle discipline.
Mhm.
And all these things in order for you to rewire your subconscious and your brain, and to be able to create neural pathways, it does require a little bit of effort. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
No, that's fine. So you can, if you're looking to get more information about all the services that we offer, again, I do want to also mention that the website is under, I say air quotes, construction. Omar is doing a lot. He's our IT guy too. He's doing a lot of work it looks beautiful though. So if you go on there, you'll see all the resources that we have. Again, the assessments, and the variety of services that we offer. So, and if you're interested in just having a chat,
Reach
book a
out.
discovery call. We'd love to connect with everybody and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
All right, and so we want to thank you for staying after a little bit over.
Late,
I'm gonna be stopped the
7
recording,
minutes.
sorry, but then you could ask questions afterwards. But I just want to leave you with this: our objective and our goal with the Soul Squad, with the HSQ Empowerment is this: we want you to live authentically, impact your community, but it all starts within you.
Mic drop.